Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Temple City Council for Thursday, August 6th, 2015. Please rise as Father Tom Chamberlain of Our Lady of Guadalupe will lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Sandra Escada, Director of Human Resources for the city. Father Tom.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we ask your blessing as we gather together in this city council meeting. Pray your blessing upon all the residents of our community. Pray for our city council members that they may be open and attentive to the needs of our community as they are presented to them. Grant them wisdom and knowledge and understanding and courage to make the best decisions that will affect our community. And all of this we pray in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in saying, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. I have the opportunity for public comments. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to this meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. No discussion or final action will be taken by the City Council. Mr. Trevor Egbert.
Hi, my name is Trevor Egbert. I'm with 121 Telling. Address is 8473 West FM 93, Belton, Texas. My name is Trevor Egbert. I'm with 121 Telling. I'm the co-owner and operations manager. We've been in business since January of 2009. We've strived to work hard to be one of the elite towing companies in Central Texas. We've been voted Best Tow Company by members of local community for the last 3 consecutive years. Recently, 121 Towing was awarded the Temple Towing contract through a closed bidding process. On August 20th, you will be asked to review the contract. We are very excited to work with the City of Temple, the Police Department, and its citizens. We have a secured vehicle storage facility within the city limits of Temple. We have the latest technology in dispatching software. We have GPS trackers on all of our trucks to ensure our dispatchers send the closest record to the scene to cut down on wait times, but more importantly for the safety of everyone on the scene. We have purchased new equipment to better serve the Temple community. We've purchased a 60-ton wrecker, a Landau trailer, a 30-ton wrecker, into addition the 10 trucks that we already have. Thanks for your time, and we look forward to working with you all in the near future.
Thank you. Mr. Wes Teeters.
All right, I'm going to say it like I did last time. I'm Wes Teeters. I'm a Christian. That's a good way to start out any conversation. The reason I'm here today is I own 4 South Main, Temple, Texas. I own Wes's Burger Shack. About a year, 2 months, 5 days ago, not that I remember the date, it burned down, and we're in the process of rebuilding. A lot of stress, getting the permits, and not knowing what to do. That's where I was at when I first came in. And I want to thank Leslie, Kathy, Robin, Debbie, Brian, the other Brian, Fran, Mark, Ashley, Heather Bates, Lois, all of them. You've taught me a lot. We as humans nowadays, we expect everything right now. And it doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. And they have really sat down and explained stuff to me, and we've really come together. And I don't think we thank the permit department and that side of it. Man, I've sat in there and I watched a guy just really be ugly to him. And it was like, I sat there and I'm like, and you want them to help you? Why would they, not being ugly, I can say to my business, if you're ugly, that's not the kind of people I want. They can't say that, you know what I'm saying? But next time you're around, tell them thanks. I mean, because they do a lot that you don't. I didn't realize it, but I just wanted to say thanks to them because it's been a process. We got about anybody seen the front of the building? We took off the orange at the top, and we found brick that's been there since 1908. Changed my whole. I was going to put a balcony up there for my personal use, and it was going to look good. I had to change that. I don't get my man cave that I wanted to have. But 1908, it's hard to take that off. So you will see, some changes. I mean, but we're trying to bring it back to Daniel's in 1938. I have a picture of it. We're trying to bring it back to look real close to that. But we're leaving all the original brick. The other thing is I did want to talk about parking meters. The parking meter lady, I'm glad she's back. I've paid $35 so far. But you know what? I'm not mad at her. The parking out there is for our customers. And I think as business owners, we need to think that way and make our employees park in the designated parking spots that we have, that Temple's allowed us to park there all day. But again, I've paid fines, and I listen to people. Man, she's got a tough job. She's got people out there cussing at her. And again, it's hot. Anybody's been outside, it's hot. I've offered if she wants water, and again, this is a lady that gave me $35 worth of tickets. I will give her free tea or water if she needs it. I'm not doing it because I don't want her to write me a ticket. I don't care. I want her to write tickets. If it's, legit. And yes, we have issues that we have to get fixed through because it's been a little while. I know I'm getting close. It's been a little while. But I mean, and I'm willing to help. And that's what I was going to ask you. If we want to get some people together to see, we got some 30-minute parkings that was used back in the 60s that we don't have businesses there that need it anymore. If we want to get a group together to get, and look at stuff like that, I'll be glad to be part of it or to head it up, whatever. But again, thanks. We got about another month and a half to go probably. Appreciate you.
You were saying good stuff, so I was just going to let you go. Julia Ramirez.
Hi, my name is Julia Ramirez, 1102 North 6th Street. We've only been in Temple since April 31st. We purchased the home on that street, and we're still getting used to Temple. Coming from Brian from Houston, so we're downgrading a simpler way of life. We like Temple. We like the smallness of it. We like the community. The people are friendly here. And I just want to say thanks. You have a really great community. Just one issue. There are tennis shoes that are strung up over the lines which belong to Time Warner Cable. We've called several times to get them removed. They won't remove them. They're at the location of 8th and Main and Main and, what is it? 8th and King. Main and King. And we've contacted the police department as well. Usually that means there's drug activity in the area, but it makes it look like a barrio. And that's the historic district, and it's really tacky looking. So if anybody can do anything about it, we'd appreciate it. But thanks, Temple. We really like it here.
Joe Ramirez.
Hello, my name is Joe Ramirez, and like my wife, we really love it here. But I do have another issue also on top of what is going on in our neighborhood that nobody wants to do anything about it. There's graffiti in your city. I don't know if you people have noticed it. I don't know who can do something about it. But that, again, is another situation that somebody else is coming into town. You guys need to get ahead of that. Also, I don't know who my councilman is. I've done research on everybody here, but I can't find out who my councilman is. There's a house on the corner of Lamar and 6th Street. It's an eyesore. terrible. Nobody has taken care of that place in months. I know that for a fact because we've just been there 2.5 months. Do they do any driving around? But anyway, we love it here. Thank you for your time.
Ramirez. Mr. Milton Hensley.
I came to talk to you about another matter, but Wes Teeters is here. I've known Wes my name is Milton, it's 301 Metro Drive, Temple, Texas. I've known Wes when he was just a little fella. When he made the statement that he was a Christian, I'll vouch for that. Wes started riding our church bus, and that was in 76, 77. That rose a lot of years off of him and off of me. And Wes kind of disappeared for a while, and then all of a sudden Wes shows up. And Wes is such a nice person. He's just a good man. He is. What? Yes. What I came to visit with you all about, October the 4th is coming up in just a very, very short time. October the 4th is the day that we're going to have our life chain. And I know that I will start getting permits from y'all, but one of the things I want to do is invite you to our life chain. Some of the members have been attending the life chain this will be our 9th year. We have grown from 96 or so persons. We met on South 31st and 363. For the last 2 years, we've had a group that is at 31st and about where McDonald's would be. And then we also started a group 2 years ago that is in Belton. And we're growing each year. Last year, I would say that I could work for the Chamber of Commerce, but we had 300 people, put them all together. And we have grown, and we're going to grow some more. And want all of y'all that's here to come out to our life chain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Item 3 on the agenda is recognition of the City of Temple Employee of the Quarter and Employee of the Quarter finalist for the third quarter of 2015. We have Ms. Bryn Myers and Heather Bates. Ms. Myers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, of the two presentations that I was scheduled to give you tonight, this one I'm by far the most excited about. I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to our new Employee of the Quarter program. This is just one program that we have established as part of a broader initiative that we're working on called our Employee Engagement Program. So what is engagement? Engaged employees are those employees who are emotionally committed to our organization and our goals. They care about the work they do, and they care about the results of their efforts. These are the employees who go above and beyond. They're giving discretionary effort. It's the kind of effort and enthusiasm that no matter how hard you try, you couldn't put it in a work plan or grade it on a performance evaluation. It comes from the heart of these employees. They care, they're connected. So we've started a program that we call You Make the Difference. It's an employee engagement program that's focused on celebrating the success of our employees and building connections throughout our various different departments. One of the primary components of our program is this brand new Employee of the Quarter program. Employees can be nominated by either their supervisors or their peers for this award. We have an employee engagement committee that we formed to help us make the selection. The Employee of the Quarter committee is made up of representatives across various departments. Through this program, we're in search of employees who are doing exceptionally great work, going above and beyond their regular job assignments, and demonstrate a positive attitude towards their work responsibilities, towards our citizens, and their coworkers. This quarter, we were lucky. We found many of those exceptional employees. We had a total of 46 employees throughout the city nominated for the award this year. So with nominations like Corporal Locklear from the police department, who successfully managed the recruiting process in an unexpectedly condensed time frame, to Don Hartman, who is an animal control officer who cares for the animals at the shelter every single Saturday and Sunday, and who has stepped up and taken upon herself to learn about animal medical care, to Nan Rodriguez, one of our deputy city attorneys, who went above and beyond in helping a new coworker get trained and provided them wisdom and encouragement along the way, to Heather Willis, an administrative assistant, or Heather Wilson Ellis rather, an administrative assistant in the Public Works Administration Office, who provided invaluable support to the Finance Department in our capital improvement program reporting and tracking, to Wayne Maddox, a system analyst in our IT department, who provided exceptional support and assistance to the planning and permitting departments while they transitioned to a brand new software program, to Steve Peters, who's a building maintenance worker, and who we can all appreciate goes above and beyond every week to make sure that air conditioning is working in this very room. This committee had a very tough job to do this quarter. They had to narrow down those and 46 other wonderful nominations and come up with your very first Employee of the Quarter and finalist. They took the job head on and did a great job, and tonight we're pleased to recognize our finalist and our very first Employee of the Quarter. At this time, I would ask if Mayor Dunn and Mr. Graham could join me and Heather down here and assist us in recognizing these great employees. Our first finalist is Corey Wheeler. Corey works at our Temple Airport, and she was nominated by her supervisor, Sharon Rostovich. Corey and Sharon, would you please join us? As many of you know, we have a pretty significant capital project underway right now at the airport. One Friday afternoon, this past June, when Sharon was out of the office and several members of the airport staff were scheduled to be off, the contractor working on that project came to Corey to let her know that if we wanted to save any of the landscaping materials at the front entrance, that would need to be done by Monday morning. Corey took the lead without hesitation, rolled up her sleeves, grabbed a coworker, and spent that entire afternoon loading heavy pavers and other materials on a trailer so they could be saved and reused. Corey is a tremendous asset to our airport, and we are so proud to have her on our team. Please join me in congratulating Corey on being named an Employee of the Quarter finalist and thanking her for her dedicated service. Our next finalist is Magnolia Bates. Magnolia is the food and beverage coordinator for the Mayborn Center, and Magnolia was nominated by her coworker, Jacob Alexander. Magnolia and Jacob, would you join us? Is Jacob here? Jacob couldn't make it tonight. Okay. And any supervisors that would like to join us at the front as well. Magnolia was nominated for the Employee of the Quarter Award because her coworker, Jacob, noticed her going the extra mile at a recent event, coordinating items well outside of her area of responsibility in order to ensure that the event honoree and all the attendees had the best experience possible. However, Jacob isn't the only one who notices Magnolia's contagious smile and superb customer service. I personally recently received an email from the organizer of an event at the Mayborn. This particular event was an event that spanned over 3 days. The organizer indicated that he had never received such superb service. He said that Magnolia had gone above and beyond to work with his group and make their experience at the Mayborn exceed all of their expectations. Yet another event organizer emailed back in May regarding an event they held at the Mayborn that month. This organizer said that Magnolia is one of a kind, excellent staff member who made us all feel welcome and pampered. The event went perfectly. We had a great time and all went so well I could not imagine my event going more smoothly, she said in the email. So please join me in congratulating Magnolia on being an Employee of the Quarter finalist. Our next finalist is Belinda Garcia. Belinda Garcia is a program coordinator for the Parks and Recreation Department. Belinda was nominated for this award by her coworker, Terry Landeros. Unfortunately, Belinda had a family emergency, so she's not able to join us today, but I still wanted to tell you a little bit about Belinda and the great work she does for us. Belinda was nominated for the Employee of the Quarter because in addition to her regular duties, she stepped up to cover a key vacancy during the Parks Department's busiest time of year this summer, ensuring another successful season of high-quality summer camp programs for our citizens. Not only is Belinda managing the Wilson Park Recreation Center, she's also overseeing both Camp Heatwave and Camp Horizon. This is all in addition to her regular job duties, where she holds many camps and events that she and her coworker organize throughout the year. It's not surprising to find Belinda throwing princess parties, her superhero get-togethers, and everything in between. So again, while Belinda wasn't able to join us, please do join me in congratulating her and thanking her. She probably is very tired. Our top finalist is Joelle Gussman. Joelle is the crime victim coordinator for the Temple Police Department, and Joelle was nominated by her coworker, Sergeant Gary Smith. Sergeant Smith and Joelle, would you join us? Joelle was nominated for the Employee of the Quarter Award for her efforts in developing and then successfully seeking grant funding for a crisis assistance program, where volunteers are available to respond at all hours of the day or night to assist families in need and victims of crime in our community. Joelle developed this program on her own initiative, going well above and beyond her regular duties. According to Sergeant Smith, Joelle is the person the police call when they need assistance with families in need, death notifications, family violence situations, and so forth. In his nomination letter, Sergeant Smith says, "I have known her to console mothers with injured children, cradle babies for hours on end, and overall provide a caring touch to those in need. If there is an assistance program or food bank that can assist a family in need, Joelle knows about it and how to put the families in touch with the assistance they most desperately need in crisis times. I have never known a more compassionate person with the personal drive to assist others as Joelle Gussman." So please join me in thanking and congratulating Joelle. And finally, I'm not even doing the show. Someone who did it for me. Thank you. Our very first Employee of the Quarter, I'm pleased to announce, is Mr. Jonathan Loeb. Jonathan is the marketing coordinator for the Temple Parks and Recreation Department. Jonathan was actually nominated by 4 of his coworkers. So he was nominated by Ron German, Derek Newman, Sinette Ferris, and Sandra Mojica. Could you all join us? Jonathan began working for the City of Temple in February of 2014. Since coming on board with Parks and Recreation, Jonathan has completely transformed our marketing ideas. From new designs to Facebook, LED billboards, and brochures, Jonathan has made a huge impact, says his coworker Derek Newman, who's the wellness coordinator for the city. According to another coworker, Ron German, Jonathan is devoted to those he serves, and he genuinely cares about the entire department and the city's reputation. He keeps me on track. I never miss a deadline because Jonathan is always a step ahead. In addition to managing the Parks and Recreation Department's information and marketing efforts, Jonathan is frequently found going above and beyond by assisting with special projects and programs. Sinette, his coworker and an assistant in the tourism marketing department, states, "I recently took on Santa Fe Market Days. It's a big project, and Jonathan has made it wonderful. He has written amazing press releases on the market. His knowledge and assistance has been instrumental in helping us get the word out. I honestly don't know where I would be without his help." According to another coworker, Sandra, Jonathan has a great attitude and is always willing to help when needed. He was instrumental in getting information out regarding the city's recent parks bond election. He is a very hard worker and makes it all look effortless. Please join me in congratulating Jonathan and thanking him for his service to our city.
Jonathan, before you go anywhere, I have, let me grab this so Donald doesn't get mad. I would like to present this proclamation to you as the first employee of the quarter. But first, let me say that across the entire city of Temple, we are incredibly lucky because we have the best staff that any city could hope for. And I think that this program is a long time coming. From Brent and Heather and everyone that was involved with it. Thank you to all the finalists. Y'all are fantastic examples of every other person that works for the city, whether it's a lifeguard that is working through the summer to the city manager himself. And so we're Jonathan is an outstanding employee who goes above and beyond regular job assignments, does exceptional great work, and demonstrates a positive attitude toward work responsibilities, coworkers, and citizens. Whereas Jonathan continually demonstrates a positive can-do attitude, receives positive feedback from supervisors, coworkers, and citizens, and regularly goes the extra mile. And whereas Jonathan has been nominated by his peers and selected by the Employee Engagement Committee to be recognized as the Employee of the Quarter for the third quarter of 2015. Now therefore, I, Daniel A. Dunn, Mayor of the City of Temple, Texas, do hereby recognize Jonathan Lowe for the excellent service he continues to provide, and hereby thank and congratulate him on being named Employee of the Quarter for the third quarter of 2015. In testimony whereof, I witness my hand be sealed of the City of Temple, Texas, this the 6th day of August, 2015. One more round of applause. Thank you so much. Probably my favorite experience with Jonathan was when he was filming me along with Donald in the back, and I showed up at the wrong park, and which is kind of sad. So I just would like to thank him for bearing with me, as I remember where every park is in my hometown that I claim to know like the back of my hand. Item 4 is a public hearing to conduct a final public hearing and consider adopting a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant 2015 through 19 Consolidated Plan and the 2015 through 16 Annual Action Plan and Budget, including the funding recommendations and notice of the 30-day public comment period from June 19th through July 18th of 2015. Ashley Williams.
Good afternoon. We receive Community Development Block Grant funds from the U.S. Department of HUD, and we are supposed to use these for very low and moderate income persons to help through community development efforts. And with that, we're required to produce every 5 years a consolidated plan that outlines our goals for the coming 5 years, as well as address annual plans for each year of funding. So after several public hearings and meetings, we developed a consolidated plan that has been under review from June 18th to July 19th. And the goals that came out of that are to focus on housing rehabilitation and reconstruction in town, improve community accessibility through transportation enhancements, expand social services to assist LMI children, youth, elderly, and disabled, remove barriers to education, job training, and Section 3 compliance, and affirmatively further fair housing. So with this in mind, we developed a annual action plan for this coming year. Those goals will be addressed throughout a 5-year period, and this will be the first year for that con plan. This year, we have been notified by HUD that we will receive just over $357,000. This is an 8.5% decrease from last year's funding. We will then also reallocate remaining funding that we have in the budget for $60,000, giving us a total of just over $417,000 this year. As I stated, we experienced an 8.5% decrease this year in funding, and it's been a steady decrease since for the past 10 years that we've been realizing. So that has put some constraints on what we're able to do, but we still are meeting the community development needs. Other areas have noticed decrease too, not just the City of Temple. Nationwide, there's been a decrease. As you can see, the state has received less, and the highest maximum in the state, which is larger cities like Dallas, they've received less, and then the minimum has also received less. So it's a going trend right now. The action plan development had some comment periods as well prior to the publication of the first public hearing in June. We had 5 public hearings. throughout the spring, and the general comments were expressed that they wanted an improved housing stock, sidewalk improvements, lighting improvements, neighborhood cleanup, maintenance education classes, address homelessness, and a variety of other issues related to community development. And we use this to develop the con plan and the action plan. No comments were received in this recent comment period for the review of the con plan. Proposed allocation is to, that you have in front of you, is for $50,000 for public service agencies, $100,000 for infrastructure improvements, just over $114,000 for housing improvements, $70,000 for demo, and $83,000 for general admin. The staff is recommending that we award the following agencies with the $50,000 set aside for public service agencies. United Way will focus on an account development program. Families in Crisis will focus on victim intervention for clients. Hill Country Community Action will focus on Meals on Wheels. And those are the breakdowns of what we would propose. With infrastructure, we have set aside $100,000, and we are proposing to focus on bus shelters and the associated sidewalks and lighting needs in those areas. CDBG this year, we're getting back on housing, focusing more on that as that was a very high priority brought forth by the public. And we are going to partner with a nonprofit agency to roll out a housing program to improve weatherization, code compliance, and an array of other housing issues listed. And with that, the clients would have to go through a maintenance education class to ensure that they were able to continue maintenance on their house. The demo program is now completed in-house through our code enforcement department, and we are proposing $70,000 for the demo program. And this addresses dilapidated structures and blight within areas around the city. For general administration, we're proposing $83,000, which is 20% of the total allocation, and this will involve staff to complete the task. So the schedule is tonight we ask that you adopt the plan, and we will be submitting it to HUD on August 15th, and then the plan will begin October 1st. And this is just a summary of everything that all the different elements that are involved in the annual action plan, and there's more information online. Any questions?
Council, any questions?
Sounds like a good plan.
Very much so. Thanks for all your work on it and the committees. We are scheduled for a public hearing. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There being no one wishing to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on item 4.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Item 5A, public hearing, receive a presentation by the city manager and conduct a public hearing on the proposed 2015-2016 operating budget, and B, discuss proposed tax rate and consider adopting a resolution scheduling the adoption of the proposed tax rate for August 27th, 2015. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. It was just a little less than a year ago at the end of August that I assumed my present duties as city manager, and I think it was probably 2 days after that, after you had adopted the budget, that Tracy came in and said, we need to start working on next year's budget. So what has begun to feel like almost a year-long process, we're heading into the home stretch today. So before I begin this presentation, I'd like to thank Tracy and her staff, particularly Jennifer Emerson, who worked very hard on this budget, and our office, Bryn Myers, Assistant City Manager, who have worked very hard on putting together the actual budget that you have that's available online for anybody that wants to look at it, but that you have access to. And I can say without a doubt, they promised me that it would be rewarding and fun, and it has been all those things. And I'm sure that my being a rookie city manager probably made it a little bit harder. So I appreciate their patience with me. So with that, and I'd like to thank the council too, obviously, and for your leadership guidance on this. We began our process together in February with a retreat in which you shared your vision and your guidance, and certainly that guidance and what you've adopted over the years and our strategic plan guided everything that went into this budget. So thank you. Today, I'm going to kind of update you on the calendar. As I said, we're heading into the home stretch. I'll talk about, for the public in particular, what guided us in putting this budget together. We'll give you a brief overview of the funds that go into this budget, the many different funds we have, and then I'll just hit a few highlights of the budget. And again, in the time we have, I can't talk about everything, but the budget is available on our website. And I encourage you to go to our website and look at the budget. So on our calendar today, you just heard Ashley's presentation, and you just adopted the annual consolidated action plan for CDBG. Today, the items that the mayor just read relating to what I'm talking about are we are going to conduct an initial public hearing on the budget and our CIP. And then as a related action item, we will ask that you consider adopting a resolution that will set a preliminary tax rate and also schedule 2 public hearings on the tax rate. And as you can see, the dates we have for those are a special meeting on August 14th. The first public hearing on the tax rate. We'll also talk about the budget again. And then on a regular meeting on August 20th, we will have a second public hearing on the tax rate as required by state law. And then we're heading to the 27th at a special meeting the last Thursday in August, where we will ask you to adopt the actual budget and set the tax rate. So again, what guides this process? Well, we begin with our city strategic plan, which has a statement of values, has a mission. We have 4 focus areas, and that guided everything we did. The rules of engagement that I talked with you back in February, I made a commitment that I would try to put together a budget that would maintain or improve our current service levels, that would protect our workforce, and we just heard about some very wonderful employees we have through our program to recognize some of those employees, but certainly we want to do that. We wanted to focus our efforts to try to grow the tax base in the economy, and we've been successful in that over the years, and as you're going to see, but it's really important to be able to maintain those services in the future. And finally, we wanted to preserve our facilities and infrastructure in the community. So looking at just an overview on the revenue side, and what you've got in this chart is a comparison of the adopted budget last year, the budget we're currently in for revenues for our different funds, general fund through the reinvestment zone fund, and then a proposed budget, and you can see the percentage increases on those. I would just share a couple thoughts. One is that we continue to see good, steady growth in our 3 major funding sources in the general fund. Certainly sales tax and property tax have just been consistently growing, and this year is no exception to that. The debt service fund, we're seeing the impact of a couple of things happening this year. Your Parks bond issue, voters approved in May, the 5 cent, that is It's going to fund about $27 million worth of park improvements. We've got the TCIP, some debt coming in for that, so that had a major impact. A couple others that I mentioned there are we're using some drainage funds, so to fund some drainage equipment to improve our drainage system. And finally, you see a pretty substantial increase in the revenue for our reinvestment zone, and that 340% increase is just the answer to the question of what has been the impact of Panda 1 and 2 in our community. And so that's had a huge impact on increasing the tax base out there, which has led to that increase in revenue. On the expenditure side, it obviously parallels that. Make one comment that, as you know, under state law, we're required to have a balanced budget. So if you're switching and looking between revenue and expenditures, you'll see that in some cases, expenditures are higher for those particular funds, and that is because we're using some fund balance, and we're doing that in conformance with the policies you've adopted about what we can use fund balance for, things that we are saving up money in those accounts to purchase, without issuing debt. And so we've got some pretty significant increase. Again, debt service, pretty good increase in debt service that's related to both our parks bond issue that we're beginning to spend some of those parks bond funds for those park improvements. We've got the impact of our outer loop, our pass-through program. We're starting to see both on the revenue side and expenditure side beginning to pay that debt service. The drainage fund I mentioned, we've got a pretty substantial increase there, and that's related to, again, we build up a little bit of money every year in that fund, and then we're using that this year to buy some equipment. And finally, the reinvestment zone, that last line, that with that increase, we're able to do more projects in the reinvestment zone. Some budget highlights, and again, can't cover everything, but just focusing on public safety, parks, community development, downtown redevelopment, solid waste, and the tax rate. Public safety, we've added funding in the budget for 3 firefighter overhire positions. We've got funding to establish a new fire training academy at our brand new training facility out by Station 8. Our goal there is to have a self-sustaining academy that many regional fire departments, other cities in the area will use. We're adding 2 outdoor warning sirens to our community, replacing 2 major pieces of equipment in the fire department, Quint 6 and Engine 7, and also replacement of a fire command vehicle. All the vehicle replacements are just part of our regular scheduled replacement of those vehicles. Public safety, we're adding a evidence and property technician position in the public safety, or in the police department, and that's something that was identified in a recent assessment we did of the police department. We're replacing public safety laptops. We're replacing 10 marked vehicles and 1 unmarked police vehicle. We're adding 3 new marked police cars, and those are for the officers. We added 3 officers last year, and they've been going through the academy and field training this year. Now we're adding 3 vehicles for those. We're adding 10 police body cameras, which, as you know, is an ongoing issue in most communities. And we've got a pretty substantial replacement of a ballistic vest for the police department. I've added a bullet here. We're adding some additional funding for Bell County Communications, our 911 system. They've hired a new director, and they've identified some needs there, and so we're adding almost $100,000 in costs under that contract for 911. Parks and Recreation, obviously the community in voting that $27 million package. Back in May, we're moving forward with that. I think almost the next agenda after that bond election, Kevin and his folks had begun to move forward with several projects, design and construction projects, so we're moving forward. We're beginning to recognize some additional costs associated with those projects in the parks that are listed there. We're adding a pavilion at Little Blue Stem Park, a dugout at Bakersfield. We have some Phase 1 exterior improvements at the Mayburn Center. I've got a photograph on the next slide to show you that. And we're also proposed to fund a master plan at the bend of the river for a future botanic garden. This slide here shows some of the improvements. There's a top-down view of the front of the Mayburn Center showing the driveway and some landscaping strips. There's a close-up of a strip that goes out towards the highway, and then there's this kind of a side elevation of that. Those improvements. Community development, I won't spend a lot of time on those because Ashley just kind of went through and identified some of those, but kind of highlight a couple things. One is we're adding a new position, a community development manager that will administer all of the programs that are listed below. And Ashley, I think, just kind of gave you an overview of those, but we've got housing improvement programs, and most of these dollars, because of the requirements of the program, are going to be able to be spent in East Temple. So we've got programs both for home or housing improvement, but also education of potential homeowners and credit repair and those kind of things, working with a couple of nonprofit corporations that we've identified as good partners. We've got infrastructure improvements. We've got money for demolitions, and just continuing our code enforcement program. So we've got things like you added a code enforcement officer last year. We've been much more proactive with our code enforcement that is needed. We added our tool truck last year, and so we have some additional operating costs associated with that. Downtown redevelopment has certainly been a focus. The transformation team is something that I think Britt and I have worked on very passionately the last few months, and it's kind of an idea that really, in some form, I've been carrying around for probably 10 or 15 years. I just thought this would be something that would be good for the community. I've got a couple slides about that, and we're adding a downtown development coordinator that will do everything from running some of the events we're having downtown, like the Santa Fe Market Days, but other festivals and things we're trying to do. Nancy and her team, working with Kevin. I want to kind of share a couple of quotes and some photographs of the kind of work that the transformation team is doing in the downtown area. Initially, we are focusing on the downtown area, and it's a 3-man crew, and they are a working crew, and they're doing everything from power washing to sweeping to vacuuming streets, minor repairs, working with property owners, both to eliminate code enforcement problems, but also to make them aware of incentive programs and other programs that we have to improve the downtown area. We really, they've been working, I guess, a little over a month, been out there. Every week we meet with them. They have a schedule of the work coming up the next week. They show us before and after photographs of the things they're working on. They've already made a couple of passes through the downtown area. They've begun to have a little free time to look at other parts of the town. I'll mention one of those that's pretty cool is we have acquired quite a few properties on Avenue U for that future road project, the widening and creation of a new road from South First Street to Scott Wright campus. And as we acquired those properties, and we had this very wet spring, lots of rain, grass was growing, and so those properties were sitting there really looking bad, and they identified that as an area and went and really have cleaned up that area. A couple of photographs here. You can see one of those at the top. That's one of our entrances on this building, and we power washed that maybe a decade ago. It just kind of gradually returns to that kind of condition, that limestone. You can see how great that looks. Bottom there, you see it's a small vacuum truck that gets, they use it to clean gutters, sidewalks, but also some of the inlets in the corners where we had some drainage issues, stuff that was washing down, blocking those drains. You can see the gentleman in the bottom right doing one of my favorite jobs for the crew, which is power washing, and you can just see, I hope you can see that, just how dramatic that can be. And a lot of that stuff, just over a period of time, it builds up and you don't see it. And our crews, what they have been approached by downtown property owners already, and people are excited and they appreciate it. And I think in turn they're stepping up their own efforts. And you can see a nice quote here on this page, and on the next page another quote. This is an example of an alley where they've gone in and cleaned. You can see this is actually very close to City Hall, where stuff happens. We had a wet spring. You've got grass and weeds growing up in the curb and guttering, and you can see what a difference they're making. So certainly applaud that, and I just want to take a few minutes to kind of brag about the crew, and we will have them come back and meet with you and show you more pictures. Solid waste, we currently have 10 residential solid waste routes. I think we briefed you about this in a workshop earlier this spring. We've got about 23,000 customers. The last time we added a residential route was 2010, and we did that by actually shifting some equipment and personnel from another roll-off route. But since 2010, we've had a 22% increase in customers. And so this year, and in addition to replacing some equipment in the solid waste department, we're actually adding a new piece of equipment and a new operator. As I said, replacing 4 solid waste trucks there. And to help fund that, we're proposing in the budget a 5%, roughly 5% increase in our commercial solid waste rates, and that's the first increase that we've really had in about 6 years in that program, despite the fact we've had substantial growth in the community. Just a few other highlights. I think we've talked to you. I know Kayla did a briefing and Lacey a couple meetings ago about public records and just the sheer volume that we have. And so we're proposing adding a public records administrator in the city secretary's office to help with that workload. At the airport, we're adding an administrative assistant. We're adding a troubleshooter for facility services, and that will work with our HVAC program in this building and other buildings. And we've been contracting that out, and we think we can do it. We can get better coverage by doing that in-house. We're adding a development assistant at our Heritage Museum. And again, we think that position will generate enough revenue to cover the cost of that position. Another position I think all of us are really excited about is we had an assessment by our risk pool this spring of all of our operations, both liability issues we have from operation of our programs and our equipment, but also workers' comp kind of issues. And one of their recommendations, and probably their strongest recommendation, was that we do more in terms of safety and training like we have in the past. And Kayla and Bren headed up a committee, and one of their recommendations was to hire somebody to administer our training programs and do some training as well. And so we're proposing to fund that position. And finally, we're proposing in utilities to add an environmental compliance technician. And one of the issues we've had in our solid waste collection side has really been fat, oil, and grease in our commercial, in areas where we have in our sewer in commercial areas, to just deal with that. And so we're proposing to add a person there that'll help us meet our requirements of state law for that. As you know, every other year we look at civil service employees, our police and fire, and the other year we look at general government. Well, this is our year for civil service. We did a pay study this spring, looked at our peer cities, and did our analysis and recommended an increase that we would implement in April of 2016. So it's a partial year implementation of that, and it's a pretty substantial increase for police and fire. We have also tweaked our pay for performance program for general government employees, added a few dollars for that, and just adding a step right in the last few years, it's just been you're either eligible for one amount or you weren't, and now we're adding additional layers, so we have two different layers of pay for performance. And finally, we're allocating about $550,000 for building interior improvements across all of our buildings. And with that, those are the highlights of the budget, revenue, and expenditures, and I'm going to turn it over to Tracy to talk about the property tax.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Graham. Just a brief overview of the assessed valuation of the taxable property within the city limits of Temple. Over the past 10 years, the average annual increase year over year of the property tax base has increased about 4.67%. In this past certified roll, the increase was 3.83%, and the total certified taxable value of property in Temple is about $3.8 billion. As Jonathan had mentioned earlier about the reinvestment zone, separate special revenue fund, the revenue in that fund is used for infrastructure within a designated area. The average annual increase of property values in the zone over the past 10 years has been about 28%. In FY16, the base grew about 40%. Next slide, just the FY 2016 proposed tax rate has two components. The general maintenance and operation component of the tax rate and the debt service or interest in sinking component. The total proposed rate is 62.98 cents per $100 valuation. That shows a slight decrease compared to the previous year in the maintenance and operation rate, and an increase to the debt service rate of 5 cents. As Jonathan mentioned earlier, that relates to paying the debt service on the recently approved, voter-approved general obligation bonds for parks. And the total rate increase would be, net of those two, would be 4.34 cents. I'd be happy to address any questions related to that or other information.
This does require a public hearing.
Council, any questions or comments? I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There being no one wishing to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. And council, I will entertain a motion on 5A and B. We can, one of you can make both motions, but they have to be read separately.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution setting the proposed tax rate of $0.6298 for $100 in value and scheduling the adoption of the proposed tax rate for the August 27th, 2015 special city council meeting. And continue. And I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution setting the public hearings on the proposed tax rate of $0.6298 per $100 in value for 8:30 a.m. August 14th, 2015 special city council meeting and 5 o'clock p.m. August 20th, 2015 regular city council meeting.
I have a motion on 5A and B.
Second.
I have a second. Madam Secretary, item 5A.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Mayor Dunn?
Aye. And item 5B.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Item 6, first and final reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of City of Temple, Texas general obligation bonds, authorizing the levy of an ad valorem tax in support of the bonds, approving an official statement, paying agent registrar agreement, and other agreements related to the sale and issuance of the bonds, establishing the procedures for selling and delivering one or more of series of the bonds, and authorizing other matters related to the issuance of the bonds. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a brief summary of the ordinance before you. As you'll recall, on May 9th, 2015, voters approved the issuance of $27,675,000 of general obligation bonds for park and recreational purposes. And another item in the ordinance, pursuant to Chapter 1371 of the Texas Local Government Code, the City Council has the authority to delegate the pricing and selling of those bonds to a pricing officer. This ordinance would delegate that authority of the pricing officer to the Director of Finance, or in her absence, the City Manager. The maximum principal amount of the issue is not to exceed the voter-approved $27,675,000, and the delegation authority would expire 1 year from today. Just a timeline of some significant events related to that issuance. The bond issue will be rated by Standard & Poor. The initial meeting will be September 1. On September 8th, the preliminary official statements, or the offering documents, will be distributed to underwriters. The actual pricing and sale and negotiation of the sale will occur on September 15th. September 17th, the City Council will receive an update on the sale of the bonds, and that will be provided by financial advisor Dan Wegmiller, Carol Palumbo with McCall Parkhurst Horton. They are the bond counsel. And then the actual delivery of the bond proceeds will occur before the end of the fiscal year, September 29th, when we receive the funds for the bonds. Again, that's a brief summary of the ordinance, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Council, any questions? All right. This item is also scheduled for a public hearing. If anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There being no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on item 6.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Next is the consent agenda. All items listed under this section, the consent agenda, are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the council, any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member and will be considered separately. This is item 7A through 7J. Is there anything that anyone wishes to remove? If not, I will entertain a motion for item 7A through 7J.
Motion for approval, items 7A through 7J.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Item 8, first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning of 12.999 acres from the multifamily dwelling 2 district to neighborhood service district on Lot 4, Block 3, the Groves at Lakewood Ranch, Phase 1, located at 301 Clinite Grove Boulevard. Ms. Zen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, this is item ZFY 1522, a request from rezoning from multifamily 2 to neighborhood service, location 301 Clinite Grove Boulevard, as mentioned. Planning and Zoning considered this item on July 20th. This is tonight we'll be looking at this item for a first reading. Just some general background. The applicant is John Keela of Keela Land Investments. This is approximately 12.9 acres. It is currently zoned multifamily dwelling, or MF2. And once again, the applicants requested neighborhood service zoning for this location. You can see the case number, the general location located just north of West Adams. The future land use map has identified this area as suburban residential. The suburban residential character district is suited for mid-sized family lots. This particular request is not compatible with the future land use designation, but we have determined that there is some partial compatibility, and I'll further explore that in the next slide. The Choices 08 Comprehensive Plan identifies some land use policies, and as staff has started to really take a harder look at our comp plan, to really evaluate it more against these requests and take a more comprehensive look at at the overall recommendations, we're starting to look at some of the general guidance provided in the comprehensive plan. And with related to this item tonight, specifically, there is some guidance that can give us a little support for this rezoning. Specifically, the land use policies suggest that smaller scale neighborhood retail and services uses should be located at intersections of collectors and arterial. This is located along Westfield Boulevard and just north of West Adams, directly abutting an existing neighborhood service tract. So it would essentially extend that neighborhood service parcel and make it a little bit larger, and perhaps offering more amenities to the immediate residents. It is located within neighborhoods where suitable sites exist and conditions are appropriate to balance compatibility and convenience. Neighborhood service, again, as a reminder, is our least intensive retail district and is designed to serve abutting residential things like bakeries, video stores. Well, I guess there aren't video stores anymore, but bakeries, those small neighborhood gyms, daycare centers, things like that. You may recall that Klein Knight Grove Boulevard was reclassified from a local street to a collector earlier this year. And you can see the subject tract and its proximity to, it's actually on Klein Knight Grove Boulevard. The Trails Master Plan and Thoroughfare Plan are addressed on this slide. Klein Knight Grove Boulevard is the proposed collector, and West Adams is an existing major arterial. The city's Trails and Master Plan, there's an existing citywide spine along Adams and a local connector located along Starlight Drive. There's an existing 6-inch water line already in place. The subject tract is already served, and an existing 8-inch water line also indicated on the map. This is the subject tract. It is, as mentioned earlier, the future land use map has identified it as suburban residential, currently zoned MF2, and it is not developed. Property to the south is also suburban residential. It is the property that directly fronts West Adams. It is already zoned neighborhood 2 and abuts the lot under consideration this evening, and it is also undeveloped. Property to the south, to the north, is suburban residential. The zoning is SF2 and it's currently undeveloped. But as you can see, there's a great deal of activity at this site, and I imagine that development will be coming pretty quickly. Property to the west is suburban residential. The zoning is SF1, currently undeveloped. And to the east, the zoning is SF2, and it is developed as residential units, single-family detached. This is just a chart identifying the permitted and prohibited uses. Again, small retail and service uses, cleaners, drugstores, laundry, these types of facilities are permitted in the neighborhood service, the types of things that would service the immediate residential. Just draw your attention to things that are prohibited. Alcoholic beverage sales for on-premise consumption greater than 75% of the total revenue of the entire total revenue of the establishment. Drive-through restaurants are not permitted. Package stores also not permitted. All industrial uses not permitted. And multifamily would no longer be permitted should this be approved this evening. Just some non-residential development standards. These are across the board for the city. Just want to draw your attention to buffering. Continuous buffering would be required along the north and east property lines that abut the single-family districts immediately adjacent to the subject tract. So you may recall that can be a fence or wall or a vegetative screen. 5% lot area would have to be landscaped in accordance with our general development standards. Just an overall compliance summary. Again, the future land use and character map, which is essentially our representative component of the comprehensive plan, we've identified as partial compliance. It doesn't directly comply with the future land use map designation for this area, but certainly is compatible with the general principles and land use policies identified and providing overall guidance to staff. The thoroughfare plan is compliant. The Klein Knight Grove is already being constructed. The sections that have been constructed are being constructed as a collector, and as you are aware, West Adams is already in place. Growth and development patterns should be consistent with city's infrastructure and public service capacities, and this site is already served by public infrastructure. It is certainly compliant with Temple Trails Master Plan. This site is not on a designated trail. This, I think, is the summary of the of total compliance for the request. 47 notices were mailed out to property owners within 200 feet. 20 notices were returned in favor, and those are indicated with an A on the map. It just should be noted that I believe 19 of those were returned by the applicant, who owns a great deal of the property in the area. Two notices were returned disapproving, and those are indicated with the red D on the map. Newspaper printed notice of the public hearing on July 9th. Staff recommends approval of rezoning from MF2 to neighborhood service. It demonstrates partial compliance with the Choices 08 comprehensive plan and compliance with the land use policies. It demonstrates compatibility with surrounding zoning and land uses, and its compliance with Thoroughfare and Trails Master Plan as well. Planning and Zoning Commission at their July 20th meeting recommended unanimous approval 8-0. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you have this evening relating to this request.
Council, any questions or comments? This is scheduled for a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is B.J. Little. I'm with Turley Associates. Address is 301 North 3rd Street in Temple, Texas. Normally you would see Mr. Keela up here speaking, given one of his lengthy presentations, but he is on the way to Louisiana right now with his family for a wedding, so he has asked that I attend in his presence and answer any questions, talk a little bit about the project. So just to give you a brief background, the project is currently zoned multifamily. The plan here was to build a high-end multifamily development, which has fallen through. So Mr. Keela has decided to purchase the land in order to protect the surrounding land values, as the single-family activity has been very strong in this area. And also the home buyers that have either already purchased homes in the area or are interested were questioning the aspect of the multifamily development. So therefore, the current request that we have in for a multifamily to a neighborhood service, John plans to build something similar to the Bentwood or Waterford professional parks that you see along 31st Street. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer those. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Not, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on item 8.
Motion for approval of item 8.
Second.
Motion to second, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Item 9, first reading in a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a conditional use permit for lots 4 through 6, Block 3, Moore's Night Edition, located at 111 through 119 South 33rd Street, allowing a substance abuse treatment facility. And we will need to table this item because we need a supermajority vote for passage. And since we just have 3 of us tonight, this is scheduled for a public hearing, and so I have to call the public hearing but I will leave it open for the next meeting. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There being no one wishing to speak, I will not declare it closed. Sorry. Just have it. Anyway, but I would entertain a motion to table.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
A motion to second, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Mayor Dunn?
Aye. Item 10, consider adopting a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to the Outer Loop Phase 3, Adams Avenue to the Channel, construction contract with R.T. Schneider Construction Company in the amount of $11,804.25 for construction services required for utility relocations, driveway removal, driveway construction and the elimination of the proposed temporary roadways section.
We actually have two change orders for your consideration tonight. They're both associated with transportation construction projects. The first one is change order number 2 to the Outer Loop Phase 3, which represents about $12,000 of construction costs, which is 0.5% of the original construction contract. The items which read PVC crossing along this next to the bottom row are basically just conduit that's put in to try to expedite the work that needs to be done by the franchise electric utility. There's a couple of driveway items, one on the west side here and also on the east side for Walmart, and those are to provide some access for some development that's occurred since construction is in between design and construction. And the rest of the items that you see here, the subtractive items and some changes to the road surface and traffic barricade are to redo the road phasing plan to allow a road closure to try to expedite some of the construction grading activities. And then also for item 11 is another TCIP construction, another TCIP item that has two construction change orders. The first change order, number 4, and this just shows the overall project. This is to add a French drain to deal with some groundwater that's been noticed since it actually started raining. This was, we basically designed it during a drought, and we didn't really realize there would be groundwater there. Also, there's a 12-inch check valve, which at the time we designed the project, we weren't aware of its location, so that needs to be replaced. Had we known both of those things during design, it would have been in the original construction bid. Change order number 5 is to accommodate 2 different drive access points. One is for Belton School District's campus. We had hoped to originally be done with construction by the time they started school this fall. That's not going to happen, so we'll need to provide temporary access along Westfield Boulevard. And then also some more information that's come to light since we bid the construction project is Crossroads Park associated with the Parks Bond. They have been able to provide us a layout of the access for the facilities, and so we'll accommodate that with approval of this change order. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Will the temporary driveway be done in time for school to start?
Yes.
Council, any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion on item 10.
Motion for construction services required for street and water utility extensions in the amount of $61,556.05, as well as declare an official intent to reimburse.
I'm sorry, Councilman Cladd. I need to read item 11 in.
Oh, okay.
He did them all at the same time, but if you'll go back to item 10, if you wish to make a motion. Would you like to make one?
Or do you want them separately? Okay.
It's a little difficult with just the three of us.
Do you need to read it in, or what?
No, just a motion on, I would entertain a motion on item 10.
Okay, consider adopting a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to the Outer Loop Phase 3 Adams Avenue to Channel construction contract with R.T. Snyder Construction Company Limited in the amount of $11,804.25 for construction services.
Second, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. And item 11, consider adopting resolutions authorizing 2 change orders to the Prairie View Road Phase 1 Research Boulevard to North Pea Ridge Road construction contract with R.T. Schneider Construction Company. And 11A, construction services required for street and water utility extensions in the amount of $61,556.05, as well as declare an official intent to reimburse the expenditures related to the utility portion of the change order with the issuance of 2015 utility revenue bonds, and B, construction of street extensions in the amount of $157,460.78. And I will entertain a motion on item 11A. We've already heard the presentation.
Move for approval of items 11A and 11B.
Second.
Motion is second on items 11A and 11B.
Cobb?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Dunn?
Aye. No further business. This meeting is adjourned.